We are live. You dig this song?
Sometimes these songs get in my head. It's a little weird.
Well, you have heard it every day. I guess I was going to say
90 days, but for like 20 days? How many times have we done the live show now?
Yeah, plus, I mean, earlier today we did another live show, Critique the Community. So we heard it again then. And then you were showing me some, is it a Jeff Beck song that sounds just like this?
Yeah, so the song at the very end sounds exactly like a Jeff Beck song called Pull It. If you go on Spotify, type in Jeff Beck, Pull It, and compare the two. I always used to watch like ESPN, and they'd always show like the highlight clips during football season, and you could hear the music they're playing and be like, that's a Van Halen riff, but it's not. And then that's a Motley Crue riff, but it's not, you know? And you would just hear all these songs that they've re-recorded to give the same vibe, but not have the copyright infringement, you know?
Right. Save a little bit of money. We can just jump right into it here.
So I thought we might start off with a little lighter note.
Okay. Is this the breakfast will never be the same?
Yeah, this was what was trending this morning when I woke up. And I feel like we never talked about this, but I knew this day was coming.
I had this clip as another similar clip that I deleted because I saw that you had this.
Aunt Jemima is history. Quaker Oats announcing today that it is retiring both the logo and the name of the 130-year-old brand, saying the brand's origins are based on a racial stereotype dating to the days of slavery. Ann Mercogliano has more.
The Aunt Jemima brand is getting erased. The name and logo are being dropped from all products, including the iconic pancake mix and maple syrup. Within hours of the Aunt Jemima announcement came word that Uncle Ben's Rice would get a new brand identity too. The move by Quaker Oats comes as companies are grappling with branding issues in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement sweeping America.
Just pour out Aunt Jemima buckwheat mix from the yellow box.
The pancake has existed since 1889.
Aunt Jemima pancakes.
The Aunt Jemima image is rooted in a mammy stereotype, and over the years, she's taken on different looks. In 1989, her headscarf was removed, and she was given pearl earrings and a more modern look.
Aunt Jemima?
Did you know the name Aunt Jemima means slave mammy of the plantation South?
This TikTok video by the singer Kirby is believed to be the catalyst for the big change, although there have been calls in the past for the company to get rid of the name and image.
Black Lives Matter, people. Even over breakfast.
The idea that Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's and hopefully other brands that have been upholding monuments to slavery in this country will all be torn down. This is a really important moment brought about by the young people that are protesting in the streets.
Quaker Oats issued this statement. We recognize Aunt Jemima's origins are based on a racial stereotype. While work has been done over the years to update the brand in a manner intended to be appropriate and respectful, we realize those changes are not enough. The company says they've already started eliminating the image and the name from packaging, and customers should start seeing changes on supermarket shelves later this year. They haven't announced the new name or what the new packaging will look like. Customers we spoke to had mixed opinions. What is your opinion about the change?
Yeah, I like the change. It's probably overdue, and now we move on.
It's a little ridiculous for me, but that's just my opinion. I would just leave it the way it is.
That was a really good poll they did.
Yeah, there's got two guys that happen to be in an empty store at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it seems ridiculous to me. Maybe there's more to it that I don't understand. I didn't fully understand what that TikTok girl was saying. Like, Aunt Jemima means some slave thing. So I don't know.
So there is a history of it where the Aunt Jemima character was rooted in slavery, and she was like the person who would cook for the slave owner or the slave owners in the house, and she would not associate with the slaves. And they also get into what's the wheat one? Cream of wheat. Okay. There's that guy, and there's like they have these posters. You can find them online where they are very like Jim Crow racial sort of posters that are very strange. You'll see the little boy without the feet, and he's got the little thing on the stick, and he's like running down the road, and people, you know, it's just like there's all these stereotypes and caricatures associated with many of these brands. The question is, if you just changed Aunt Jemima to another black woman and it had no connection to the slavery thing, could you have a black person as the name of the brand? That's what's a little strange to me.
Are you I mean, they did change
They changed the way she looked, and she went from being like a bubbly, fat woman to now being like a slender, attractive, older lady. But I don't know. I just wonder, like, can you not just change the name to Aunt some other name and then make it a black woman and it has nothing to do with slavery? Or are we saying we can't put people of color on products? Like, because the Quaker Oat guy, that's a weird logo too, right? I don't know if that's racist or if it doesn't bring up slavery. Maybe it does. Did Quakers come here and found our country and also put people to work by owning? I don't know the history there, but
I don't either. Yeah, I'm sure there's details that I don't know, but seems a little strange that this is only becoming racist this week. You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't a problem for the last 50 years. Nobody really cared.
Well, maybe people would argue that they did care, but it never would have gotten the momentum pushed behind it, you know?
Well, I don't know. I think my black friends have happily eaten Aunt Jemima's
I'm
syrup.
probably going to piss a lot of people off here, but I think Aunt Jemima's Light is my favorite syrup. And I know it's like corn syrup. I know it's not real maple syrup. Everyone from the north and from Canada and Vermont are going to be pissed at me, but if I had to do a taste test, I think maybe because I grew up on it, I enjoy that flavor the most.
That's because
I hope the brand isn't gone.
Nope, you like it because you're racist.
Well, this is an interesting video.
You know who you should get rid of? That crazy lady from Popeye. Love your chicken from Popeye. Get rid of her. She don't even make the chicken. I bet she can't even cook.
I don't think I've ever seen a Popeyes commercial before. I don't know who the Popeyes
I
woman
didn't
is.
either. I mean, I know that little jingle, but I don't know.
I've never heard that in my life.
Really?
No.
And y'all trying to get rid of Miss Aunt Jemima, then Miss Butterworth, get rid of the Popeyes chicken lady. I tell you, who's next? You know if you get rid of them, they're definitely coming after this guy, Mr. Cream of Wheat Man. If y'all get rid of Mr. Cream of Wheat Man, I'm not eating cream of wheat no more, and I'm never putting butter and sugar on it anymore, ever again, either. As soon as a brother get a little bit of fame, y'all trying to take him away. Only time we've ever been on a box was on a box of Wheaties. Then we finally get the cream of wheat box, and the syrup box, and the Popeyes chicken lady. You trying to take them away. Look, I'm saying this. If you want to be fair, then you got to get rid of all these racist stereotype people from everybody's culture. Look, hey, look at that. Look at that. Rosarita. I like the hat, but she got to go. If you're going to get rid of Aunt Jemima and the Cream of Wheat Man, she got to go. And if she got to go, I'm not using refried beans no more if you get rid of her. And another person y'all should probably get rid of, if you do, I'm not eating Tapatio and lemon on my chips anymore. If y'all get rid of him, because y'all trying to get rid of everybody. Cream of Wheat Man, Aunt Jemima, Miss Rosarita lady, and now y'all want to get rid of the Tapatio man too? I'm not doing it.
I mean, you got to make a stand somewhere. I draw the line at Mr. Tapatio man.
Yeah, I mean, who else are there? There's Quaker Oat guy. Is he the safest because he's got white privilege? He's not going anywhere.
I guess.
Is there any, like, I'm kind of making fun of this because I think this direction of this culture is a little ridiculous, but is there a real argument to be made if it's tied to slavery, somehow that is different or worse than if it's just a caricature of race or culture? Or should they all be viewed as the same? Does he have a point there? Or is there really something much worse with the like, Uncle Ben guy or the cream of wheat guy is the worst? If you see those ads, like, those are very uncomfortable to see the old history of them.
Okay, well, I mean, I haven't seen those, so I'm sure it's easy for me to say, like, this is ridiculous when maybe there's horrific ads that happened. But like I've been saying the last few days, I just think if you go back far enough and look deep enough, any company or any person that's done good things, I think you can find evil aspects to them. And if you are trying to find something to be offended by, I guarantee you will be offended by it.
I mean, Betty Crocker, she's safe. She's going to have to go.
Is she white or black? I don't even know.
I think
what
Betty
she looks
Crocker
like.
is white, right?
I don't know.
Pillsbury Doughboy?
He's white. He's eating up all that privilege. Photog Mike says, Lee, pay me now. I talked about this yesterday. No, you just paid me, Photog Mike. Brian says, can you guys do a fam photo critique soon? Do you know what that means?
Family photo critique. Didn't we just do one?
Oh, like family portraits.
Yeah, didn't we? Was that the first one we did live on this channel? We did one where I remember it was maybe it was groups of 2 or 3. It wasn't families, but it was groups of people.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do another one of those. I mean, we've definitely done it before, but we'll do another one. Cruiseman's Garage says, it's syrup. I kind of feel the same way. Merlin says, Lando Lakes lost the Indian but kept the land.
Well, that's interesting because a few days ago we were saying that like Native Americans, they're at the bottom, right? Nobody ever really stands up for them. We don't even talk about them for the most part. We destroyed their entire culture.
Yeah.
Right? But they did get removed off of the labeling before all of the ones we just saw.
I mean...
The thing is, though, Land of Lakes, it's so ambiguous. You don't even know there needs to be a face behind that. Aunt Jemima, I mean, you got to change the whole thing now.
I wonder what they're going to name it. And is it going to confuse people? Like, I wonder if their sales will go up or down. I would imagine they'd go down.
Yeah, because they're so... And I love their bottle. Like, they just have a really unique bottle with the handle in it, you know?
Maybe they just keep the bottle and... they should just make it like a white lady. Aunt Jamie. And then...
Could they make it... Now I'm really playing devil's advocate here. Could they just make it like Aunt Karen and just make it a white face?
Like the same face, but just like raised.
Oh, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. No, I was saying like take the black face off and put a white woman on there. Or would that now suddenly be
cultural appropriation, misappropriation?
Yeah, but I mean, are you saying the syrup is Aunt Jemima's syrup and you're now taking her product and giving it to a white woman?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you saying it's a white product the whole time? Whoever the it's
a white product.
Well, it's from Quaker Oats. I mean, that's the brand. So what if you just put a different face on it? Now is it suddenly like you've... Because the guy kind of has a point. Like, I don't know. It's a weird topic for me to talk about as a white guy, but you put these black figures on brands that everyone knows, and in some way it's like maybe they're rooted in something that's racial, but it's making it look a little more even. If you had to name all the brands, you'd probably say, man, there's 3 or 4 of them that are black. I can name 2 or 3 that are white. That feels like...
But we also, there are certain cultures that we respect with certain genres of food. Like when we get the Mexican hot sauce, we want the Mexican on the bottle with the big sombrero. Like we trust that's going to taste good. When we get the rice, we want the Uncle Ben's rice. We're like, he knows how to make the rice.
Why couldn't it be Uncle, I can't think of a Asian name, but Uncle Yin? Why wouldn't Uncle Yin have more respect in the rice category than Uncle Ben?
Because Uncle Ben is doing that Cajun rice. Whereas Uncle Yin is just doing the white rice and no flavor.
We gotta move on. This is so ridiculous.
Well, I wish we could move on to something a little happier, but...
Nora, Rolf and Brosnan have until 6 p.m. tomorrow to turn themselves in. The DA said today that right after the shooting, Rolf said, I got him. In less than a week, he's gone from a patrol officer to potentially spending the rest of his life behind bars.
You certainly can't fire a gun, a handgun, at someone who is running away.
Paul Howard, Fulton County's district attorney, will prosecute former police officer Garrett Rolfe with a mountain of evidence, 8 videos of the shooting, 10 witnesses, and testimony against Rolfe from his partner that night.
Does that guy kind of look like me?
Which one? The guy on the left?
Which one?
I don't know.
Not the chubby, wide-eyed looking crazy person.
I mean, he's bald. He kind of looks like if you took Nick Gore, a friend of ours, and you, and combined them, maybe that's what you get. His upper lip's too pointed and thin.
That's
if it was rounded.
Officer Devin Brosnan.
He would become one of the first police officers to actually indicate that he is willing to testify against someone in his own department.
Also in the room, Tamika Miller, the widow of Rayshad Brooks and mother of their 4 children.
I'm not causing any problems.
The night Brooks was killed, initially he was cordial with officers Rolfe and Devin Brosnan.
I had one drink. What kind of drink was it? A margarita.
Do we need to see this? We know the story.
I can't remember what was at the end of this. One story that I can't quite figure out is they were saying I thought they said the officer charged kicked the guy after he was shot. But then I also heard somebody say that the officer that might testify against the guy who shot him, he was the guy who kicked him. So maybe somebody in the comments can clarify. I've heard both sides, and I'm not able to really put it together. But I don't know if the other officer has actually said yet that he will testify. I think he's trying to come up with a statement tomorrow. But a lot of people, including the attorney, they just said no one apparently has ever testified against their own partner. And so somebody, maybe it was in this chat or someone in one of the YouTube chats was just saying that that guy's going to have to go into the witness protection program. Like, he's lost his job essentially if he's going to testify against his partner and break the code.
What does testifying against someone mean? I mean, is he going to reveal that he was this horrible, murderous, racist person behind the scenes?
I think the rest of this video does show some other things that happened to this officer in the past.
Okay.
I don't know.
We can continue. It better, Patrick. It better not be a 5-minute video with nothing.
But after he failed a sobriety test, the officers moved to arrest him.
Put your hands on your butt. Hey, stop fighting! Stop fighting! Stop fighting!
Brooks wrestled away Brosnan's taser and ran. Rolfe chased him. Brooks, running in the Wendy's parking lot, fired the taser wildly.
So the guy in the back was the one who shot?
No, you can see this guy, he pulls his gun out. It's this guy running.
Oh, it is, okay.
Video shows Rolfe firing 3 gunshots. As Brooks lay mortally wounded, Howard says Rolfe kicked Brooks and Brosnan stood on his shoulder. After 2 minutes, Rolfe began giving Brooks CPR.
Mr. Brooks, keep breathing.
The medical examiner ruled Brooks had 2 gunshot wounds in his back. Atlanta lit up in outrage. The Wendy's burned. Protesters squared off with riot police. Rolfe was an Atlanta cop for almost 7 years. He was involved in a 2016 shooting and received a written reprimand. Tamika Miller says Rolfe destroyed her family.
I don't know what I would have done if I would have seen that for myself, but I felt everything that he felt just by hearing what he went through. And it hurt. It hurt really bad.
So I don't know if this is a fair argument, but this was an argument that I read today, or somebody in a chat group was talking about, was that people were really upset when those police tasered those 2 college kids in the car, which was uncalled for. It seemed super excessive, but one of the arguments, I don't know if we heard this, but one of the arguments was that was it's not a lethal weapon, although I guess tasers can be lethal, but people were outraged that they used that sort of force with a taser on these people that were in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, in this case, the guy steals that same weapon that was used in the car thing, steals it off the police officer, and then points it back to him. And yet, can you make the same argument? Can you justify both of them? Can you say it was excessive in one, and it could have been life-threatening, and it could have been a lethal weapon?
I don't know that people were saying that you could have killed that girl in the car. I haven't heard anyone say that.
The argument goes like this, that they were using excessive force, and that they were doing a horrible, dangerous thing using a taser on somebody. But then in this case, when the guy steals the taser, and he's running, and he is far away, but he turns around and shoots it at the police officer, that somehow that shouldn't even be viewed as a threatening action at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've heard anyone say that either. I think I've just heard people say that it doesn't justify killing someone.
I totally agree. I feel like you let the guy go, you have his car, you have his information, you're going to catch him eventually. I know some people like to then draw the line and say, but he could have gotten in a car, and he could have been a harm to somebody else, and all these other.
One. I don't know. I don't jump to the when somebody resists arrest, just let them. I don't quickly jump to that. But I saw one clip of a police chief on CNN. This was not on Fox News, and he was a black guy, and he was like, "This is definitely justified." He said something like, "I have taught police policy with the rules for engagement and force for 15 years, and when somebody steals your taser and fires it at you, that is definitely the line where you are allowed to use your gun at that point."
Yeah.
So.
Well, because you would say, what is the outcome of that? That you start getting tased, and I don't know, I should be the taser king here, but I don't know. Do you have to hold the button to continue to administer the tase?
So. I think so.
So some guy steals your gun. He hits you with the taser. And then what does he do? Does he continue to tase you? Or does he let go of the gun and run away then? If he continues to tase you, it's not hard to imagine the next step is some other kind of assault. Maybe you could argue that's already an assault from a citizen doing that to a police officer. I don't know if that's fair or not. Can you say it's an assault from the police officer doing it to a citizen?
I think it just all depends on the situation, why it's happening.
But if you're debilitated from a taser and now the criminal is able to attack you, you could be in a life-threatening situation, not because the taser would kill you, but because you're now susceptible to any kind of blow.
Well, that's what he said. He was like, every police officer has been tased for 5 full seconds so that they know how debilitating it is and how painful it is when they do it to other people, but also how dangerous it is if they get done to themselves. And he says if somebody's tasering a cop, they're definitely going to run up to the cop and like kick him in the face or try to go for a gun or something like that. But what's different in this situation is this cop wasn't alone.
Wasn't alone, but then there was a distance. I mean, you're running with no accuracy. Does that not play into it? Or
well,
if
I mean, maybe you could make the argument that it was once it's fired and missed, the threat is now gone because I don't think it can fire again quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's the argument. And that there's another police officer a few steps behind the first police officer that's not going to allow that to happen.
People in the comments are saying there were arguments saying that that was a deadly weapon used on the kids in the car, but now it's not a deadly weapon when used by him, the suspect running from the police. Maybe I didn't explain that well enough, but I read a similar argument today.
I haven't heard anyone say that with the first thing.
It seems crazy to say that the taser on those 2 kids was a deadly weapon. I think it's excessive force. I think that was a horrible incident that should have never happened. But
all right, let's catch up here. Leonardo says that we should put George Floyd's face on Aunt Jemima's. That could work.
Floyd's syrup?
Yeah. Leonard says people are fine with Hugo Boss, and he was an active Nazi who used slave labor to manufacture Nazi SS uniforms. I didn't even know that. Photog Mike says he tried to cover up the 2016 shooting. He's talking about the cop.
I don't know. I don't know the background of what that was.
Jurgis says shooter was the kicker. Other officers stood on shoulders. Lawyer for non-shooter said they had not agreed to testify against the shooter. Misrepresented. Not sure what that means. Logan says Beverly Hills issues emergency order banning protest and anonymous zones.
Autonomous.
Oh, autonomous zones. Celebs fund the protests but ban them in their own neighborhoods. Of course they do. Dio Tough says they shoot once on distance, after that on contact. Distance is also limited to a few meters. If he's far enough away, there is no immediate danger. That makes sense. Samuel says the new Netflix documentary, Taser King.
People also in the chat before we went live were saying something. I couldn't find a news video about this, but that a bunch of cops and precincts in Atlanta have just left. And people are like, we're done.
Yeah, I heard like 18 last I heard have
really
quit. Yeah. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, if, like I said, I have a friend who says if somebody steals your taser and is tasing you on the ground, if you're a police officer, you should have to take it. You should not be able to use any force against that. And I'm like, if that is the rule that we set in place, there will be no police officers. You know, if you're not going to protect police officers at all, that's crazy. Now, that's not what happened in this situation. He wasn't actually hit. But some people believe that. And we're definitely moving down that direction with all of this outrage at everything. Here's another one.
Take it down! Take it down! Tonight in Charleston, officials are calling for the removal of a statue dedicated to a slavery advocate. On this same day, the city remembered one of its darkest hours.
Our city endured a most grievous loss.
It was unthinkable, really. 5 years ago today, a self-proclaimed white supremacist went to Bible study at the historic Emmanuel AME Church in South Carolina, stayed for nearly an hour, prayed with the group that welcomed him. Then he opened fire, killing the senior pastor and 8 of his parishioners. Felicia Sanders was one of 5 survivors. She forgave the gunman.
And I wear a smile And the reason I wear the smile, because if you look at the pictures of all 9, they all wore a beautiful smile.
Following the massacre, there were calls for unity. Now, community leaders are calling for action on gun violence, police brutality, and what they see as systemic racism in the wake of George Floyd's death.
People want to think that
Reverend Sharon Risher lost her mother and 2 cousins in Charleston.
it's time for this country to just really get a grip on this and understand no matter what you do, we are not going away. We make this country too.
On this somber anniversary, a focus not on the loss, but the legacy of the Charleston 9. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News.
Today was the 5th anniversary of that crime.
Yeah, this wasn't what the video... I thought this was going to be about just pulling down the statue. I didn't know it was the anniversary of that.
Yeah. I have the next video, which just is a little bit more of the statue, but I don't know that they've made a decision, but I think the mayor has said that it will come down. I think he's going to say that tomorrow.
Here's Riley Benson joins us now live from Marion Square. And Riley, you spoke with activists as well as leaders who are calling for the removal of the statue.
Yeah, Carolyn, that's right. The John C. Calhoun statue has stood at more than 100 feet in Marion Square since 1896. Now, state and local leaders, along with activists, are calling for its immediate removal, saying it's a symbol of hate and racism. Today's message from a joint press conference was clear. Activists from National Action Network Nelson B. Rivers III says the time for action is now. Those in attendance believe the statue should be removed from Marion Square and relocated to either a museum or to Calhoun's gravesite at St. Philip's Church in Charleston. State Representative Wendell Gilliard was among those in attendance. He says the statue is a clear symbol of hate and that Calhoun should be remembered but not revered.
We got to remember this. When this statue comes down, it's not just about taking a statue down. It's about raising the hope of the city of Charleston, the state of South Carolina, raising the hope of America. These statues of hate have to come down.
And we reached out to the city for comment. They said in a statement earlier this afternoon that Mayor Tecklenburg plans to announce plans for the future of the statue sometime tomorrow. And of course, when we learn more information on that, we'll be sure to share that with you on air and online. Live from Marion Square in downtown Charleston, Riley Benson, Count on 2.
I think where this gets a little tricky, and I don't know well enough to be an authority on this, but I believe we saw protests there where police were kicking them off the park, and this probably happened across the country. That land where many people were protesting, but this one in particular in Charleston, is private property. It's privately owned. Now, I believe the city of Charleston might own the statue, but it's on private land, so there's some dispute there. But what if the statue was owned by the same people that own the land? Do you have the right? I mean, it seems like you have the right to do whatever you want on your land, but I don't know if, because it's kind of a public park, I don't know where the laws are drawn there.
And who is Calhoun? I mean, this is our hometown. I should know this. I mean, the main street is named after him. Did he found Charleston in some way?
I think he was a big, he was a big founder and a big politician in the city, probably in the whole country, in the whole state.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't want statues of hate in my town, but is it a statue of hate, or is it one of the founders of the town who happened to be related to slavery in some way? And then if you say, yes, he had slaves, or he sold slaves, or whatever horrific thing he did, but you keep going down the line, and now you move on to George Washington, and you're like, every painting of George Washington must come down. Every statue of George Washington must come down. That's where I have the problem with this. Like, I don't care about that one statue.
Well, in Charleston and probably elsewhere in the South, I mean, there's at least 5, maybe 10 major plantations where slaves were owned and they were used to do all this work. And now they're kind of museums and historical places that represent slavery, but then they're also just beautiful plots of land that are preserved. And it's weird because, I mean, how many weddings have you shot there? I mean,
lots
of weddings there. And you say, like, is it a racist thing now? But it may not have been back then, but there were racist things happening. But is the land to blame? And should the whole place be bulldozed? Should it still be called whatever it was? Like, you watch movies like The Notebook, and they're all filmed on these plantations, and like, does it make The Notebook a racist movie? Like, you can just take this forever and ever and ever, and I don't know where, we have to change. If the statue comes down, do we have to change the street name? Is the
Right.
is the street name as bad as the statue? In a way, they're both giving him credit, you know.
Well, the other interesting thing is the dude, the Saul Legree, and Saul Legree Road is this big road in James Island.
Yeah.
I'm sure that guy in some way is related to slavery, and he owns that big mansion downtown that's some historic site now.
Oh, I don't know all this history. So the Saul Legree, this road, is named after the slave owner?
I just had, dude, he was one of the richest guys in Charleston, so I just assume he
really?
had slaves. Yeah.
Because that particular street is known for having a lot of relatives from slave. Like as soon as they were
Descendants.
freed,
Yeah.
as soon as they were freed, they all went to one part in Charleston.
Yeah.
This road, but the road is still named after the owner. Is that what you're
think
saying?
so. I think he might have been one of the people to like give them that road or something. But if he ever owned a slave or knew someone that owned a slave or anything, then it's like that has to change now. And now we have to go down the list of every street name in Charleston and try to figure out, is it named after that Morris or this Morris? And was that Morris a good guy? Or, I don't know, he was married to a wife who did this once, and it's just, that's my problem.
I'm getting
with all
text
this.
that Calhoun was our 7th vice president of the United States.
Oh, I had no idea.
I have to look that one up.
Interesting. Let's see. Photog Mike says, if the cops quit, that means they support Rolf. Is that the guy's name? Rolf? Who shot Rashad Brooks, then they are a part of the problem. Rolf needs to be disciplined. Let's see. Henry says, history is always meant to be remembered, but history is not always to be celebrated. Emmanuel Echo on his YouTube show about these statues. I agree. I agree with that 100%. But what's next? Like, can we erase artwork of George Washington? Is like the final step to me, where it's like we've gone crazy at this point. We've gone crazy. And then, you know, anything like we were talking about the other day, I was looking more into the Native American history, and like there's crazy amounts of violence and slavery and stuff within Native American tribes.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
I mean, the thing is slavery is not unique to the United States.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination.
But like, do then they have to remove any imagery or statues or artwork of their indigenous leaders a few hundred years ago as well, because they did horrific things? I'm just not sure that this can ever end well or ever end. It's just like, oh, you gave us the statue, now we want the Aunt Jemima. Oh, you're giving us the Aunt Jemima now? Now we're going after the Washington Monument, or we're going after whatever it is next.
I was thinking today, I was like, if we're going to pull down the statue, like, there's this big pedestal, right? This, for anyone doesn't know Charleston well, this statue apparently was on ground level. And people used to go and try to scratch it and put feces in its face and, like, paint it. And so they put it on this, like, 40-foot pillar, like it's way up in the air.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, if they're going to pull that down, that whole pillar is still going to be there, right? What could you put there? And I was like, could we put like Shepard Fairey is a artist from Charleston that's the Obey and the Obama Hope guy, like he's super famous. If you've ever seen Exit Through the Gift Shop, he's in that quite a bit. I was like, could we not start having really cool statues of people in the last 50 years? I mean, they do this with like Elvis and stuff. You go to
Elon
Memphis.
Musk up there.
But he has nothing to do with Charleston. I'm just saying, like, people that are from Charleston that are more modern. Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray is he's so funny to me, because I hear stories about him being a total asshole, but he is unanimously loved. Everyone loves Bill Murray. So if I guarantee you, if you started a GoFundMe right now and was like, we have to raise $100,000 to put a Bill Murray statue up.
That's a brilliant idea.
I bet you'd get that money.
Let's do like the post we did yesterday for the Minnesota bail. We need to raise $500,000, and then we will get it built for $100,000, and then we'll just pocket the $400,000. And it'll be guaranteed to. I mean, people will definitely do that. They'd be like, Bill Murray statue.
I think they
Heck
would do
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think they would do that.
That's a That's $500,000 idea right there.
That's true. I started watching this crazy documentary on Netflix about this guy in Miami who started. First, he sold luxury cars to drug dealers, and then that led to like cigarette boats that they could run drugs with at record. That no.
Between
police.
where are they going?
Maybe Colombia. I don't know. I mean,
like
it
Miami,
seems too far.
like United States.
Yeah, it seems too far. I don't know. Then, I guess Moscow collapses as a country or something, or Ukraine, something like this, and. He flies over there and he starts to realize that everything in their country is for sale, and you can get like military tanks and helicopters, crazy stuff.
Okay.
So these drug dealers somewhere in South America say, we want this 2 of these helicopters with these double blades that can lift tanks and stuff, and we're gonna lift huge amounts of cocaine. Like cocaine that could not be lifted by any other aircraft. We want to lift it with these things. So he tells them, I'm going to buy it for $1 million and I want $1.5 million. These are $10 million helicopters used at the time. He goes over there and talks them down to like $600,000 for these helicopters.
Okay.
And then
they ship them from Russia to South
America?
America?
But before that happens, all these mercenaries come out with guns and they're like, you have to pay us. So he flies in and pretends to be Pablo Escobar and convinces them that he's like the most badass man on the planet, gets them to release it. He's like, we're going to strike up a deal. And he delivers these helicopters to these drug dealers. It's insane. And where this documentary is going is the next thing that they ask for is a military submarine. And so he's going back to buy a used Russian military submarine and somehow get it all the way back to these drug dealers. And all these people involved are just in this documentary admitting
what is
to
the name
these
of this?
crimes. I don't know. It's like one of the top. You'll see it. You'll see it.
On what, Netflix or on?
It's on Netflix, and I haven't finished it, but I think it goes awry. Merlin says he was a vice president and pro-slave advocate in the 1800s. That's Calhoun, on Calhoun Street. That's what communists did when they came to power in Russia. They brought down the statues of Russian czars and renamed streets. There you go.
I mean, to be fair, doesn't all government changes do that? You don't have to be communist to pull down the statues and then rename it. I mean, you saw ISIS doing that. You see them doing that in Saudi, like in a...
No, I don't know that he's saying that you have to be communist.
Iraq.
I think he's just saying that it's like showing a huge change in power. You know,
Yeah.
people have no respect for the history or whatever. Samuel says they are talking about changing the names of schools named after Washington and Jefferson. There you go. I mean, that's the first step.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't...
Well, we will accept all currency with these racial presidents' faces on them.
That's true. You
just
send it
put
to
them
me,
in the mail.
and you won't ever have to look at that again.
Manila envelopes so no one can see.
Somebody says, great, you're going to get Bill Murray canceled now. How? I think
we're going to get him promoted.
Yeah, Bill Murray is going to become even more famous. He's going to be the one who took down the racist statue.
You're going to see him on the late shows, and they're going to be like, so you got a statue down in Charleston now. And he's going to be like, yeah, and they're going to cut to it, and you guys are all going to know that it started right here in Puerto Rico.
In Milwaukee, there's a statue of Fonzie, if anyone's old enough to remember the Fonz. Sam says, Lee, the slippery slope is a logical fallacy. Look it up. It's a flawed argument. You must prove each step of your argument. Pat, look it up because Lee won't.
Ooh, that's a slippery slope. If I get on the iPad and look up stuff, you're gonna lose me. I'm not gonna be part of the show anymore.
I will happily.
But you'll have an answer, and that's why it's so slippery. You'll lose me, but you'll get the answer.
I will happily look it up. I mean, I I was the one when people were talking about pulling down these statues weeks ago. I was saying that it was going to lead to this stuff, and now people in the comments are like, yes, it's leading to it. So, I mean, I don't see how that's a fallacy. Photog Mike says Moscow is a city in the Ukraine, so maybe that's what it was. Is a country that's today's geography lesson. Lee, hate me now or thank me later. Yeah. Thanks. Leonessa says Tucker Carlson talked about Charleston tonight. You guys are famous.
So the next video that might make sense here because of all of this talk, and it's a podcast and it's just audio, but it's an interesting one, is America falling to collective thinking? And this is from the podcast series I've been listening to called Macro Voices. You can find it on a bunch of podcast services. I listen on Spotify. I put a link below. It is just 17 minutes, but this guy's he's been in Hong Kong for like 20 or 30 years, so he's a foreigner. And they're talking about what's going to happen in Hong Kong and then what is happening in the United States, and is there any reason you might not want to invest in the U.S. because the dollar could fail with the Fed pumping out all this money. So that's kind of what this broadcast is about. But this little minute or two that he talks here is very interesting because they start getting into the riots. And you being in Hong Kong and dealing with riots, what do you think as a foreigner looking at the United States? And he has an interesting commentary on this.
I think if you're a foreigner and you see what's happening in the U.S., the bigger question behind all these riots is, I would say, almost a societal question, in that, our societies, I don't know if you've ever read Hutchinson's Clash of Civilization, but, Hutchinson basically goes through the 9 major civilizations that the world has gone through. And what makes ours very unique is basically the rejection of collective responsibility. Our entire legal systems are based on the idea of individual responsibility. You are responsible for your own actions. You are not responsible for your father's crimes. You are not responsible for your brother's crimes. In many societies, if your brother committed a crime, then you could be punished for it. You saw this in China under Mao. You saw this, of course, in Nazi Germany and so on. The idea of collective responsibility for something is basically the path down to hell, frankly. What is amazing in today's demonstrations is that what has come out, and what I find extremely scary, is that you have all of a sudden the idea of collective responsibility for things that happened generations ago. The idea that we can be responsible for the crimes of our fathers. And once you go down this path, that's basically the path towards totalitarianism. It's the path towards the breakdown of law, frankly, of law as we know it. So, these riots, behind these riots, I think it's something very, very scary. When you come from a countries that have known socialism, that have known the idea of collective responsibility, and all of a sudden you see that emerge in the U.S., which, for anybody was sort of the shining city on the hill, the idea that, this is the one place in the world where individual rights will always prevail. And all of a sudden you see all over the U.S. this clamor for collective responsibility. As a foreign investor, it is scary, and you think, well, you know what, I've seen this movie before and I'm taking my money out. So I do think there is some of that going on for sure.
Interesting. I mean, I always have been taught, personal responsibility, don't judge people based on the group that they're in, like let everyone have their own shot, but we have not been going down that path recently.
Well, the conversation we haven't had yet, but I feel like, I don't think it'll ever happen, but I think it's going to be a news story soon. It's just the reparations, the idea that we as a group of privileged people or white people or classified however you want, male people, that we owe these generations from the past something that we ourselves did not do today, but that maybe our ancestors did, And that's been an argument that I haven't seen made yet, but it's always tied to the racial stuff that's going on. And like you said, just because George Washington did some good and bad things, does that mean that like today we have to judge all of us based on something that was done way in the past?
Yes. Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes. Let's get into COVID, shall we?
Oh, there's that.
Or should we? Who's Karen the cop? What is this?
This is more cop stuff, but this was...
Should we stay on topic and watch this?
This was a big viral video this morning.
I have not seen this.
When I pull up to the window, they hand me my receipt, so I go to the second window to get my food, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And so the girl comes to the window and asks me what my order was. I repeat my order and my coffee order, and they...
Can I just say the way she's telling this, if you just listen to her tone and not the words, I mean, it sounds like something really serious is about to happen, like somebody's about to die or something. So
keep watching.
Asked me to pull up because my food's not ready. It's an English muffin meal with a hash brown and coffee. And I mean, I hadn't eaten since probably about, I mean, I've been up for a very long time, but I haven't eaten in a while, so I was kind of hungry. And I'm still waiting, and I'm still waiting. And they asked me to pull up. So I pull up forward, and a girl comes out with my coffee, and just the coffee. And she hands it to me, and I have my window down. And that's all she hands me is the coffee.
No.
So I told her, I said, don't bother with the food because right now I'm too nervous to take it. It doesn't matter how many hours I've been up. It doesn't matter what I've done for anyone. Right now I'm too nervous to take a meal from McDonald's because I can't see it being made. I don't know what's going on with people nowadays, but please, just give us a break. Please just give us a break. I don't know how much more I can take.
Hold on. What? Maybe I'm misunderstanding what's going on.
Probably, because it seems like a lot of people are... It's such a weird video, right?
She got asked her order multiple times. They asked her to pull forward, maybe past the second window. They're like, it's not ready yet, pull forward. The girl comes out, and instead of bringing the Egg McMuffin and the coffee, she just has the coffee.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But then, when she starts getting sad, I don't understand what happened. She's like...
It's just a rough time out there. It's a tough world.
But is she saying the girl went back to get the Egg McMuffin, and she's like, I can't accept this because it's been 2 trips?
Yeah.
And that's... What does this mean?
So... I think her real name is Karen.
No!
Can't make this up. Karen the cop. And everyone on social media was like, what the F? Like, this privileged white girl is upset because she didn't get her McMuffin in time, blah, blah. And then they're like, she clearly has a mental, like, disorder. Like, she needs psychiatric treatment. She needs to be let off the force. And, man, people were just, like, hounding her. And I don't know who she is. You can't tell, like, what kind of officer she is. I assume she's a police officer, not like some kind of mall cop.
It looks like a mall cop to me, but yeah.
I think she's a police officer. But then you start hearing some other people give rebuttals, and this is where I don't know if you can take it to this level, but they're saying that she is crying because the story about the Shake Shack people potentially being poisoned.
That's what I'm getting.
That she is now saying she might be one of these people that's on the brink of quitting the police force because she feels like she's being treated so bad. And she doesn't feel confident eating the food they're about to give her because when she pulled up, they noticed she's a cop.
Yeah.
And now they're saying your food's not ready, which is a very common meal. Pull forward.
Okay.
And let's doctor her food up.
Okay.
I don't know. That seems a little crazy too.
Can we go back and watch with a discerning ear, and let's see if we can get to the bottom of this. This is an important
You're going to go
story.
back a few?
Yeah.
What's going on with people now? It doesn't matter how many hours. And that a girl comes out with my coffee and just the coffee. And she hands it to me. And I have my window down. And that's all she hands me is the coffee.
Okay. All she's gotten right now is the coffee.
Now, is the coffee poisoned? Or is the food that they've held back being tampered with?
Let's find out.
So I told her, I said, don't bother with the food because right now I'm too nervous to take it.
Okay. I missed that before. She said, don't bother with the food. Maybe she thinks because her order was asked for multiple times and then she asked to pull forward, they've been tampering with it. You agree?
Maybe, but I've also been in some horrible McDonald's lines where they make you pull forward and they don't have a clue what's going on in the drive-thru. And this could be just a really common occurrence.
No, I'm sure that's what happened, but she's paranoid because she... Okay, like, it's making more sense to me now.
It doesn't matter how many hours I've been up. It doesn't matter what I've done for anyone. Right now, I'm too nervous to take a meal from McDonald's because I can't see it being made. I don't know what's going on with people nowadays, but please, just give us a break. Please, just give us a break. I don't know how much more I can take. I've been in this for 15 years, and I've never, ever had such anxiety about waiting for McDonald's drive-thru food. So just have a heart, and if you see an officer, just tell them thank you. Because I don't...
I think she says give him a hug or something. It's just cut off.
I don't want to just laugh at this woman because I believe that she is stressed out, but when black people feel like they're being murdered, for you to make a video saying that you're nervous to eat an Egg McMuffin, it just is a little tone deaf maybe in the moment.
I mean, that was a lot of response on Twitter today too. Not even that, like, maybe the people that did get her fear and understood the cops people tampering with cops' food, they were just like, that's what it might, this seemed a little crazy too, but that's what it feels like to be black in America. I'm like, if you're black in America, do you feel like every time you go through the drive-thru, you feel like people making your food are trying to kill you? That's a little extreme, but I see where, you know, she's now facing prejudice where she hasn't before, and that part of it is kind of equal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that she could have gotten her point across, you know, without getting emotional and just talked about maybe a couple of examples. Like, what she used as an example isn't proof of anything. Like, that was, she made it all up in her mind, you know? So, I don't know if that was...
Now, if she had opened up that McMuffin and there was a razor blade in it, you'd be like, oh my gosh, let me tell you this story and I'm going to cry my eyes out, and you'd have a case. But I don't know, I always feel it weird when people release videos like that online. I'm like, do you really want... Like, that is now you for the rest of your life. Everyone's going to be like, dude, have you seen the video of...
Karen Kopp?
Yeah, like, you know Karen, Johnny's mother? Have you seen the video that came out in 2020?
Leonardo says she's part of the problem with weak quota hires like this lady as a partner. How can we not expect more overreaction by police? I don't know. I wonder what the statistics are of female police shootings. I would have to imagine it's much lower.
Here is the hypocrisy in that comment, though. On one hand, we're calling for cops on her argument, we're calling for cops not be so emotional and to be tough and to be able to barrel through it, right? And not be weak like her. She's overreacting and she's weak. She's got mental illness. We need to get rid of her. But on the other hand, when cops are emotionless and just do it by the procedure and do it without thinking, they're the problem. You can't really have it both ways, right?
What you got to say about that?
We have to have like mental health for the ones that are weak, but then we also need mental health for the ones that are strong. It's a slippery slope, man. It's
not a legitimate argument.
It's a very I can't come up with another word. It's another word for slippery.
It's a slimy incline.
Slimy incline.
Or decline. Leonessa says cops have their food messed with normally. Right now, the concern is 10x. I get that. Marcus says, thank you guys for the amazing show. I watch every night before bed. Question, do you guys make an announcement when you're hiring? We are always hiring writers for fstoppers.com.
We usually make announcements on the website. I don't know that we do it on YouTube, but if there's not an announcement, then that means we probably have pretty good staff at the moment.
If you happen to live in Humacao, Puerto Rico, our editor just quit. We do need a new editor in the near future, but part of me thinks you don't live in Humacao.
All right, can we get away from the cops?
Let's get into some COVID.
Open elbows! Florida might be one of the country's newest coronavirus hotspots, but some folks desperate to get back to work are urging the state to allow all bars to reopen.
They're opening casinos, but we can't serve a beer.
Those calls coming days after this Hollywood, Florida social distancing fiasco. And 16 Jacksonville bargoers enjoying a night on the town and all contracting COVID-19.
I was one of those people like, come on, it's not that serious. And
Did you hear that? 16, Jacksonville, Florida. That's where my parents live. 16 females go to a bar for someone's birthday. All of them get it. How crazy is that?
I mean, it's crazy. We had a big text come out from one of our wives of the medical doctor here who's working on the front lines. And I didn't read it. You were reading it to me, but it sounded extremely serious.
It did. She was basically saying, this isn't a second wave. The first wave hasn't even come yet because we were all locked inside. And this is what I was saying from day one. Are we lowering the curve or are we postponing the curve?
Yeah.
And in places that are very remote, I mean, Puerto Rico is probably one of them, but other states as well that people are, maybe a little more spread out, or maybe the virus just didn't really infiltrate and then they locked down very quickly.
Andalusia, Alabama is safe? Is that what you're saying?
Andalusia. Yeah. Never heard of that in my life. But yeah, are these places all destined to have a certain percentage of the population get it no matter what? You can lock down for a month, you could lock down for a year, but the second you come out, 25% of the population is getting it anyway. And if that's the case, then what the hell did we do?
Well, I don't know if I ever had a video on this, but I watched a video of a doctor explaining that a second wave typically, historically, is a change in massive season or temperature or something that inhibits the virus or the virus even mutates. But this idea of artificially locking us in our homes and then coming out and then the numbers going back up is not really a second wave at all. And that's kind of what this post that was tweeted to us today or texted to us today was saying, was that this isn't really a second wave. It's just places like Puerto Rico and most states didn't experience anything like New York, but that is still very possible. And that is the first wave. Maybe New York City is the only one that's really out of it in any capacity. And a lot of that comes down to how many people in New York got it. Are they closer to herd immunity? Because that virus has still got to be in New York City, right?
I know. It's got to be everywhere.
And if it's not, it's coming back into New York City,
Yeah. We can watch a little bit more of this, and then I've got a deeper interview with the 16
Kind of looks
girls.
like a Hanson guy, right?
Got it.
One healthcare worker who attended the bar sang on Facebook, "I should have known better. I should have been more cautious, but alas, it is what it is." Florida is currently riding a wave of cases, more than 13,000 in a week. The governor attributing the spike to more testing. But nationwide, the numbers in many places point up. 23 states have seen a rise over the last week, more than a dozen, a surge of 25% or more. That includes 4 states in triple digits: Montana, Wyoming, Hawaii, and Alabama, up almost 150%. In Arizona, cases hitting a new all-time high, almost doubling the state's previous record. The percentage of the population with the disease there higher than some global hotspots. Sadly, disparities in care there are also pronounced. This church has been used as a testing site.
Not having a hospital in this area, you have to drive 35, 40 miles to get to the hospital.
On a day, Texas hit record hospitalizations again. Governor Greg Abbott rejected a call from 9 Texas mayors, including Houston, Dallas, and Austin, for permission to require masks.
All of us have a collective responsibility to educate the public that wearing a mask is the best thing to do. Putting people in jail, however, is the wrong approach.
Here's a weird argument. Let's go down this rabbit hole.
Oh boy.
I've been in some arguments of people saying that, I'm not trying to stick up for Trump, but people were saying that Trump, because we have a horrible president, America's doing awful. And I think I've said this on the show. When I look at the numbers, deaths per million, the United States is like within the top 10, but we are at the bottom 10 with many Western countries having more deaths per million population than the United States, right? So a lot of people are saying the United States and our president has failed us and we did not respond quick enough, and this is a reason that we need to get rid of Donald Trump. But what if what we just said is true, that we actually haven't even experienced the first wave, and that all of the deaths that we have seen have actually been very low because we've all locked down and we've done what you were just saying, we've delayed the inevitable. How does that play into this narrative? Because on one hand, you kind of would have to say, well, we did act really quickly and fast, so fast that did the United States skip the first wave and now we're reopening? If anything, now should be the period of criticism. Maybe our government officials, and I'm not saying Trump did this. I think this is a local thing. This is mostly governors that are making these stay-at-home orders. But we came together and said, we need to quarantine, and we need to do the social distancing, and we're going to cut down all these businesses and make everyone stay home. Could that have actually happened? And it's hard to say this with the numbers as large as they are. People are going to be like, Patrick, what in the world are you talking about? How many 120,000 Americans have died? But what if that is a tiny, tiny number? If you were to somehow figure out what Spain or Italy's death per million is, and then do the math, could you figure out what these harder hit countries, if we use their rate, what the number would be in America? Maybe we'd already be at 1 million deaths. Maybe we'd be at 500,000.
Yeah.
We might be way more than we are now.
Yeah, I'm sure we
All
would
I'm
be.
trying to say is there a chance, and let's throw politics out of here, is there a chance that we did act pretty good, like we acted swift and quickly, and we sheltered in place, and we prevented all these deaths from happening, but now that we're all worn down and we can't stay at home, and we got to go out and protest, or we gotta say, I'm not being locked in my house anymore, I got to get back to work. Now is the real true moment where this is the defining moment. And Trump may or may not have anything to do with that. This is a lot of us.
What could Trump do right now? Like lock us back down again?
I mean, he said he wouldn't do that, but he couldn't do that anyway. He doesn't have the power to do that.
But he could recommend it.
I just wonder if we find in the next month or two that, oh my gosh, now all of everything's out of control. How will we look back at March and April? Will we say we were too late and this all could have been prevented entirely? Or will we look back and say, man, we were such idiots coming in June. In June, we thought we had beat the thing, and it's our responsibility because we're the ones that went out because we thought we did a great job, but we actually never experienced the first wave to begin with.
I just saw a clip earlier of this woman quizzing my boy Cuomo and saying that some scientist that has said that if you locked down 1 week earlier or 2 weeks earlier, you could have saved 80% of the dead in New York State.
Yeah.
And of course he wouldn't admit. He was like, I didn't have that information. Like, I didn't know. We didn't know that we could or should shut down.
But does it matter at all?
Right.
If 5 months later you reopen up and they all die anyway.
Right.
It's like, you'll never know, But
I mean, if the United States ends up having 2 million deaths, then I think unanimously we will all say we didn't need to do that lockdown. I imagine. Or do you think we could go the opposite and say we should have stayed locked down for 2 years?
I think this whole show is coming to an end soon. We'll talk about that in a minute, but that's going to be the conversation we're going to have in a couple months, maybe a couple years, is we're going to look back and say, should we have stayed locked down longer? But I don't think anyone believes that we could have done that. Our economy could not have done that. Remember when we were arguing about the economy or lives, and that was like what the main conversation was in this couch, in this studio? I feel like ultimately the economy wins out. You can't lock everyone down for a year and tell every business owner and every farmer and all of our food supply chains and everything and our importers that you have to stay locked down because everyone will start to die from other reasons. That is paramount. Now, for a month or two, there was the debate there, and you'd say, well, maybe we could open up some, but close down others. But we can't stay locked down for a year or two and try to do what New Zealand's doing, and then hope that in 2 years we got the vaccine and the virus just spared all of America, 330 million people. That's not possible.
I agree. Janine says, drive-through is rated by speed by corporate. They check you out and pull you up to clear the order. Yeah, but in this case, it was to put bleach in the McMuffin. Photog Mike says, Facebook will now let you shut off political ads. It's funny, I don't recall ever seeing political ads on Facebook, but yeah, I saw that news clip today. Lindsay says, Point of the lockdown was to slow the virus for hospitals to prepare, not necessarily to decrease the rate of disease overall. I agree that that is what everyone said was what we were doing.
Do we suddenly, because of that, now have twice as many ICU rooms? Have we been building up?
Yeah, have we been building hospitals? No.
Or are we still just going to run out and get bombarded the second that we open up?
I don't know about that. I think we're definitely spreading it out. The majority of Americans, I think, are freaked out and are probably staying inside.
But so many doctors have said, even if we lower the curve and prevent the ICU rooms and the ICU beds and the ventilators from running out, we are potentially allowing so many other people to die from checkups and other serious illnesses that are now not being treated at the hospitals. So at some point you have to weigh that too. What if like the number of people dying from other things other than COVID, that number starts stacking up and you're like, man, maybe locking down the hospitals and locking everything down so that we could treat COVID patients was actually equally as bad as the people dying outside the hospital.
I don't know. I think that absolutely you can't overload the hospitals. We should have locked down exactly up until that point. But the majority of states never had a hospital even close to overloading. So that's why I feel like they weren't really being honest.
I mean, New York never ran out of ventilators.
But New York had the boat, and New York had the Javits Center, and New York had the tents. They were prepared. Other states had empty hospitals where they were having to lay off their nurses.
You think that boat's still in New York? What happened to that?
I don't know. I would imagine it's done now, but who knows. Let's look at the 16 friends who all got it. This is crazy.
7 workers at a Florida bar and a group of 16 friends who were out for a night of fun all tested positive for coronavirus. Erica Crisp was one of them. She's been sick for a week, but she's here along with 2 of those friends, Kat Layton and Dara. Is it Sweet or Sweat?
It's Sweat.
All right, good to have you. Now, I don't want any of you to sweat. This is not one of these sessions. I'm happy that you are feeling better. You're young. Thank God you didn't get hit the way I did. I just wanted to quickly give each of you a chance to share how you now feel after this experience. Erica, starting with you. I know nobody had masks. It was crowded in there, just like a normal bar. Why did you think it was okay to do it that way, and what do you think now?
I think at the time it was more out of sight, out of mind. We hadn't known anybody who had it personally. Governor, mayor, everybody says it's fine. We go out. It's a friend's birthday. It was a mistake.
How do you feel about it now? You say it's a mistake. What do you want people to think?
I feel foolish. It's too soon. Clearly, it's, we got super sick almost immediately within days. So
So
are they positive they had it? Like they tested and everything?
I think they all tested.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what he does is he goes through these 3 girls, and they all say like, we're opening too soon. We shouldn't open. And when you hear a story like this, you think like, oh my gosh, absolutely, like every single one of the friends got it. That just doesn't seem possible. I haven't heard any story. You hear all these stories and tests coming out of Korea and China, and it's like 4 people in the restaurant got it, but they were at another table or whatever.
You've never seen 100%.
Yeah, this is 100%. But at the same time, going back to the idea that, well, are we stopping people from getting this, or are we just postponing people from getting this? The next question that you have to ask yourself is, how serious were all of these infections, right?
Yeah.
How many of these women died or whatever? And I'm glad, because it seems like, I don't know, I don't want to say that they were coached, but it seems like CNN chose these women. The way that he was asking the questions was like, I'm not here to tell you what you did was wrong, but I'm here so that you can tell everybody what a mistake this was. That seems like the agenda.
Yeah.
So when I was watching this, I was like, he better ask how serious this illness was for all these girls, because they're relatively young, and that's an important piece of information. So at the end, he asks that question.
Did anybody get sick?
Not to my knowledge. I think all of our symptoms were fairly mild. I do believe like one or two of us had flu-like symptoms and were kind of like laying in bed. But for the most part, I experienced very mild symptoms throughout the entire time.
Like 4 or 5 days worth, and then it started to get better?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Erica, I know there was a group of 16 of you. Everybody got sick?
Everybody, every one of us.
And did you hear stories about people who weren't part of your group getting sick there? Does anybody believe it was something about that place, or you think it's just doing too much too soon?
No, yes. I've been, since this all went public a few days ago, the local news, I've been messaged, inboxed by strangers, complete strangers that there that same weekend, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, who are now very sick. So it wasn't just our group, it wasn't just us, but there was one place in common. It was the only place we went to, so.
I mean, it almost sounds like every single person in the bar got it, which is so crazy
that
to
bar's
think about.
screwed. They're going to be like, can never go back. You know, like...
So they had to close the bar. Well, I mean, for one reason, I think it was like 7 of the employees at the bar got it. How many employees work at a bar?
Yeah.
You know, that's probably the majority of the employees got it.
I'd like to see the footage from the cell phones, because what if they're all like drinking out of one of the big punches and they got the straws and they're doing like body shots and you're like, all right, this is beyond just like sipping beers at a bar, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like it's like the Hangover or something where you're like, all right.
But
makes a little more sense now.
The other thing that's interesting to me, and you know, maybe I shouldn't be looking at it this way, but all of them got sick. It was not serious for any of them.
Yeah. This is where we were going before you played the clip.
And
is maybe we have this idea that we should lock down so the hospitals don't get overrun. But if the majority of young people are barely symptomatic, then you're almost making it worse on everyone by locking down, destroying the economy, dragging this out forever, when now these 16 girls are over it. Maybe that's the large percentage. I mean, we were talking about numbers of people that have COVID already. People are saying like maybe 90% of people that get it are totally asymptomatic.
Yeah.
I forget what the number was, but it was some high number.
So, I mean, again, this goes back to, and it's been 2 months since we've talked about this, but many scientists have said we should not be locking down. We should be separating the people who are in danger, vulnerable people. And if young people want to go out and get drunk and do body shots, like that's the best thing that they can be doing. Let them get sick. Especially, all of them said they got sick within a couple of days.
Yeah.
So, you know, all this whole story about it can take 14 to 27 days, incubation period, or whatever, like, that's not normal. I think the average is around 3 days, from what I've heard. I think so.
Okay. I thought the average was like 10 days.
That's not what I've recently heard. That's certainly what I heard 2 months ago. But, I don't know. I find this scary, but also very interesting. What is this? Is this relevant to anything we've talked about?
No, but this was just a story that came out today.
Well, we can talk about
politics in America. This was a big one.
A new book by President Trump's former national security advisor paints a damning portrait of a president who puts his own interests ahead of the country's. The book by John Bolton is the first account from a high-level Trump White House insider. Bolton was paid $2 million to write the tell-all, which is more than 500 pages long. CBS's Ben Tracy is at the White House tonight. Ben?
Nora, when John Bolton left the White House last September, he says he resigned. President Trump says he fired him, and the two have not spoken since. President Trump seemed to know this book would be bad for him, and it is. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton paints a picture of a highly uninformed and impulsive president. In excerpts of his book, The Room Where It Happened, obtained by CBS News, Bolton says President Trump did not know Britain was a nuclear power and asked if Finland was part of Russia. Bolton confirms President Trump explicitly linked military aid to Ukraine to investigations of former Vice President Joe Biden, the central claim that led to the president being impeached.
China should start an investigation into the Bidens.
Bolton claims Mr. Trump wanted China to go even further in 2019, pleading with Chinese President Xi Jinping to help him win farm states in the 2020 election with increased Chinese purchases of soybeans and wheat.
This book is full of classified information, which is inexcusable.
The Trump administration is suing Bolton personally in a last-minute attempt to stop the book from being released next week, claiming it still contains classified information despite a several-months-long government review. President Trump's view of what should be classified goes far beyond the actual standard.
I will consider every conversation with me as president highly classified.
In the book, published by Simon & Schuster, a division of Viacom-CBS, Bolton alleges President Trump expressed a willingness to halt criminal investigations, to in effect give personal favors to dictators he liked, citing cases involving China and Turkey. Bolton writes, the pattern looked like obstruction of justice as a way of life. Bolton also says during the 2018 summit with Kim Jong-un, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo slipped him a note saying President Trump is so full of expletive, a pattern Bolton claims of administration officials regularly disparaging the president behind his back.
The White House is pushing back tonight, saying that Bolton is undermining national security and trying to profit off of his time here at the White House. His book does now top Amazon's bestseller list.
It's interesting that Trump isn't saying that any of it is untrue.
Yeah.
He's saying that it's classified and he shouldn't be revealing it.
Every conversation with Trump is classified.
Every single thing he's ever said is classified.
I don't know. Some of the stuff they're trying to peg him on, though, I feel like is probably what all of our presidents and politicians do all the time. Like, they're leveraging companies to do things that are in their favor, and it might be personal with an election, but it also might be in the interest of other, U.S. policies. I mean, that's what foreign advisors and everybody, that's their job, is to try to, it goes back to the book I was reading, you're trying to negotiate things so that you can position the United States in a better place. And a lot of it is probably slimy, sleazy looking stuff.
Yeah.
But it's what all of our presidents have done forever.
Yeah, and if I was president, I'm sure I would ask stupid questions every single day. And then if there was some guy who was like, "Oh, Lee
Finland
thinks Aunt Jemima is not racist," and then he writes a $2 million book.
He's like the country of Moscow. What an idiot!
Exactly. Merlin says the lockdown was never intended to stop the virus. It was to give us time to supply. If we don't while we can, then who is to blame when the hospitals are overrun?
So today we've been debating, I don't know if you want to have this conversation right now, we've been debating flying back to the United States, and I've been saying on the show that I'm going to get the respirator and wear that on the plane, and today I seriously looked into doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feel like we're prepared in any way. We've not had time to build up our supplies, because on Amazon it says all of these N95 masks and these respirators, it's very confusing. You can buy the half-face respirator, but then you need the plastic pieces that lock on, and then you need the filters that go in, and then I'm trying to look up the particle sizes, and it's like you might need a second sock to actually filter out the virus. All of this stuff is sold separately. Some of it's not available. On Amazon, all of these masks, especially the disposable ones you just throw away, it's like we're only shipping these out to medical care people, and then you go to eBay trying to get on the black market and be like, where can I find this stuff? None of this is very readily available.
Readily
available.
I'm going to write a tell-all book about your dumbass.
No, the room where it happened, and it's going to be this. So all I'm trying to say is, I don't know. Do we have enough PPE? Have we built up our supplies? Have we got 3M to just get enough masks and protection equipment for everybody? I can't buy it as a civilian, as just a normal citizen.
Well, first of all, my question for you is, what makes you think that you need to have some military-grade gas mask on an airplane, but you don't think that COVID doctors and nurses need to wear that ridiculous setup? Why wouldn't you just wear a mask like the nurse who is working on COVID patients all day long wears?
So
Why isn't
I
that
think
good enough?
there's two masks, and I believe that they both work with the same efficiency. So the N95 mask is disposable, so you throw it away and get a new one. But the one that I want, it has the filters on it that's the same level as the N95 mask, but you can use it, I think it's per hour, or I think they rate it by how much exposure you've had to the dust or the particle, whatever it is that you're working on.
Mhm.
So in theory, the mask, as long as it was cleaned every day, it's reusable, but the filters don't have to be taken off every time you travel. They might be good for a certain amount of virus exposure, which if you're not really exposed to the virus, maybe they're good for 6 months. If you were spray painting a house and the fumes are constantly getting absorbed into the filter, that filter is going to wear out. You buy new filters, but you keep the mask. But if it's not being exposed to the virus, then the filters aren't really doing a whole lot. They're just filtering a little bit, you know?
Why don't you just get the disposable mask and just throw it away after the flight and then
Well,
put a new one?
I was trying to find those too, and you can't buy them.
I mean, we got people in this neighborhood who have them. Or just put on a freaking handkerchief like everyone in America and
But if
get on the
that
plane.
doesn't actually filter anything.
Nothing's filtering it, man. Like you're gonna smile while you're on the plane. It's gonna open up the little crack right here, and the virus is slipping in, and you're dead.
It's not like we're in outer space, and if the mask has a hole, you're suddenly gonna die. It's like
that's exactly how it is.
No, it's just you're reducing your exposure. So if I have a little gap here, and like one particle could get in, but without the mask, 1,000 particles are getting in. Wouldn't you rather block out the 999 particles? It's just a numbers game. It's how much virus are you being exposed to?
And what are you doing to protect your eyes?
I would have a sleep mask.
That's not a SEAL. You need to wear a scuba mask.
I don't know what you need for your eyes. I think you could just use glasses. With your lungs, you are breathing in air and filtering in air. My eyes are not really if I do this is bad. I'm like blowing wind on my eyes. But your eyes aren't producing a suction. They're not like attracting virus. It's your nose and your mouth and your lungs.
You don't think air's moving around in an airplane?
It is a little bit, but if you had glasses or my shield, wherever that is in here, if you had the face shield, it's blocking the movement from hitting your eyes.
No, it is not. Dude.
It is.
It is not. You breathe in. Where do you think the air is coming from? It's coming up under the mask, and some of it's going in your mouth, and the other ones are carrying that Rona, that sweet, sweet Rona, right into your eyeballs. You want to know how I know this?
Oh gosh, did you set me up?
You want to know how I know this? Look at this right here.
So all this debate over the middle seat makes me wonder, how far can an infectious disease actually spread on an airplane, even if we block the middle seat? And if we do block that seat, are our ticket prices going to go up? I'm Cleo Abram, and this is Answered by Vox.
Wait a minute.
This is a
I think I messed
visualization
up.
Pause
of the
this.
inside.
I like how you're using my own video to try to battle me, but...
Wait, this is your video?
Yeah.
Oh, that's where I'm confused.
Well, you could keep playing it.
How long is this?
It's 2 minutes, but it's a very good conversation.
Okay, because I grabbed the section at the end talking about the SARS. I tried to find the most interesting part.
The ticket prices?
No, the SARS.
Oh.
Where all the people got the SARS.
I don't even think I watched that part of the video.
Of a Boeing 767. It shows how a single cough can spread.
Look at that! Do you see it going down and then up? Down and then up.
It's an animation.
Oh, so this can't be trusted.
Well, keep playing it. I mean, I got the video.
Plane between air filtration cycles.
When I cough, like this, it definitely generates a lot of droplet.
That's Professor Yan Chen. He helped create this animation to study the ways infectious diseases in cough droplets can spread to other passengers. Due to the airflow design in most commercial planes, those cough droplets are first carried upwards and then travel sideways through the cabin.
The longitudinal airflow, which means it's between rows, is minimal. And therefore, it's much more dangerous to get those droplets if you sit in the same row rather than in a different row.
But the model does not completely rule out transmission to people in different rows. In this simulation, all these people around the passenger are at risk. In fact, those airborne cough droplets can move even farther down the cabin if another passenger walks by the individual that's coughing. This second simulation shows how that can happen. Air movement created by the walker can carry the droplet down the aisle to a completely different part of the plane.
When you walk around, there's a possibility to get the disease. Or you might not get it, but you might bring it to your fellow passengers.
And to make matters worse, cough droplets can land on all the surfaces we touch.
Those droplets didn't go to you directly, probably just go to the tray table, armrest, or even headrest or the seat back in front of me.
Pause it for a second. But we just had everybody last week tell us, 2 weeks ago, I don't even know time anymore, that is so unlikely to be the cause of an infection. So that part of it feels like they're fear-mongering a little bit.
You need the scuba mask. That's the only way to be safe.
Despite all these models, Dr. Chen says it remains hard for scientists to predict exactly how a virus would spread on a plane, or whether leaving a middle seat empty would actually help protect us. He uses this reconstruction of a Boeing 737 flight from Hong Kong to Beijing to illustrate his point. On March 15th, 2003, a man seated in 14E
Yeah, so this is where I started recording.
was carrying the SARS virus. During the flight, 22 other passengers and crew became infected. While data on this flight is incomplete, at least 5 people are known to have died.
So majority of them just sit within these 3 rows before and 3 rows behind. But you definitely see some of those who sit pretty far away. You know, that's 2 persons sit 7 rows in front of this infected person on the other side will also get infected.
All right, we get the idea.
What they go on further to talk about is that if you remove the center seats, it may help a little bit, but it probably won't help enough to really make a difference. But what it will do is it'll remove 30% of all the tickets being sold, and that removing 30% would actually cause the rates to go up 50%. So if you spend $300 on a round-trip flight, you would now have to spend $450. And you know, a lot of people may not be willing to say, yeah, I would be willing to spend $150 extra on a flight with such a minimal, if you could do it scientifically, like such a minimal change in the ability to get the virus, you know.
Well, MM says just buy an astronaut spacesuit, Patrick.
Everyone in the chat saying the P1000, P100 is a more, the P100 mask is way more protective than the N95, and it's more comfortable. It's got like a latex thing that would feel better. I mean, I'm trying to buy it.
I don't doubt you're trying to buy it. I've got one video to end with, and we can. It's a more lighthearted video. So before I play this, I do want to talk to you. Like, what is your game plan? We were gonna go to Orlando in the next week or two, hit up a little Universal, social distance, mask, and then potentially go on to Charleston, use the boat club that we've been paying for years that we haven't been using. I've got a jet ski that's rotting in my garage. It would be nice to use that. But today you were like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I'm seeing 16 people in a bar get sick. We have this text come in from like the wife of a medical doctor who's on the front lines.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, you know, I put a link in the description of a new website. You could pull it up if you wanted. I sent it to you. I don't know if you looked at it today, but it's showing more numbers per state so that we can figure out what the actual, you were talking about one that's like percent of testing versus percent of confirmed cases, and some of these more technical.
You want a low positive testing rate.
So the link in the description has more of these numbers, and it's showing at South Carolina and Alabama. These states are like really going up.
It's like the states that we're going to.
Right.
Florida, Alabama, South Carolina.
And so here's the other thing. It's like my sister is going to visit my parents for 4th of July, and I haven't seen my parents. I don't know when I'm going to see them next. And if my way of thinking is if I get a flight right now, like maybe this weekend, maybe Sunday, I get a flight to Charleston instead of Orlando, and I skip the whole amusement park part, I could be in my home in Charleston for near 14 days in quarantine and know that I did not go in contact with anybody major. If I go to the store, I have the mask, and I'm not going to go to
contact David. You're going to be working.
Yeah,
with
but
them.
I'm not going to be in a plane. Like, I'll be 14 days removed from the plane. I'm not going to be in a water park. I'm not going to be around a bunch of people. I'm still going to limit the stuff that I do and try to be very safe with masks and stuff. And if I did that, then I could say, all right, I'm going to go with my sister in Charleston and drive to Alabama to see my parents and have a 4th of July meetup with my parents and my sister and my niece and everybody. And it would be like a family thing where I know, not for certain, but I would know that I have quarantined for 10 to 14 days. If I go to the water park, by the time we get done in Orlando, 4th of July will be 4 days later, 2 days later.
Why is that the case? Like, we can go to Orlando whenever you want. We don't have to postpone it. If you're talking about going to Charleston tomorrow, we could go to Orlando tomorrow.
I don't think Kristen can go to Orlando, or you guys were going to do another trip. I don't know. There was other things. I don't know the details there, but I could potentially go to the water park like in a month. I'm just, in my mind, people probably don't care about this. In my mind, I just feel like I could go to Charleston, I could quarantine 14 days, be confident that I'm safe, and then I could go visit my parents knowing that I'm not infecting them. My sister was like, but they're also working in a dental practice. they're probably being exposed to stuff too. But I'm like, they're not coming off of a plane. And then go back to Charleston and then maybe go to Orlando or something. I don't know. So I'm thinking maybe I go to Charleston, quarantine, deal with the lightning strike, get the network back up and running.
So Kristen's not going with you?
She would go, yeah.
Oh, she would?
Yeah, but we would just make a trip to Charleston and quarantine. Because the problem with Orlando is you get done with Orlando and then we want to go to Miami to plan with the wedding and see her mom, but like it's not going to be 14 days since that flight.
Just this 14 days is arbitrary now, right? Aren't they saying that it could be 27 days?
Well, you just said it's like 3 or 4 days people get
I
sick.
know. So which one are you going to live by?
Maybe the more conservative, safer number? I don't know.
27 is that number.
I just don't know. I couldn't live with myself if I knew that there was a high probability that I got someone in one of our families sick and they died from it.
Yeah.
That would haunt you for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Because I wanted to go to a water park in the hottest time of the year?
Yeah, but the safest possible thing to do would be to not see them. But you want to see them.
I do want to see them, but
Right.
could I see them by being quarantined for 14 days and then just driving to them and feeling like I did the 14 days, none of us are sick, we're good?
I mean, potentially, but during those 14 days, you're going to be going to the grocery, and you're going to be going to Walmart, and you're going to be going to the boat club, and you're going to be working with David without a mask on every
Those
day.
all feel like very small risks.
I
Being
agree.
on a boat with like 3 people doesn't seem risky.
I agree.
Going to the grocery store, especially the Publix by my house where there's nobody in there, and wearing a mask and sanitizing my hands, I bet you that's safer than going to Walmart here in Puerto Rico, you know? I'm not going to be going to the bars. I'm not going to be hanging out with large groups of people. To me, the risk is the flight. I'm going to be in a tube that's like sealed.
Yeah, but you're going to be dressed like a spaceman, so you'll be safe.
Safer.
Just put on the full face mask. Snorkel, like your dad does at the dental office, and then just put a little thing right back here where the air comes in.
If I can't get these masks, I also have to be able to get the masks in time. I'm not going to be able to get that if I need to fly in the next week.
No.
So I need to figure out how to get that like filter that could filter that out, but
it's easy. All right, let's catch up here, and then we can watch this final thing. Photog Mike says Trump talking about a $4,000 vacation stimulus. I haven't heard anything about that.
What was the comment?
Trump is talking about a $4,000 vacation stimulus.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either.
Merlin says, Patrick, there's a free mask above your plane seat. That's so true. Alan says, I flew 16 plus hours, LA to Puerto Rico.
Back to LA.
And yeah, I mean, this is the Alan that we hung out with. And had my mask off to eat and drink. Oh my gosh! And you shook his hand and you ate with him for hours.
I didn't know he was going to be in these chats. Reminding me of my mistakes.
I could smell farts through my mask, so obviously wasn't a good one anyways. Worst case, you get it like those CNN girls, Patrick.
I mean, Alan, I might already have it.
Hasn't been 14 days since we've hung out with Alan. You've got it right now. Might as well go to Universal.
Well, that would be a wrench in this whole thing. If we all got sick like in the next couple days and then got over it, then we'd be good. Our $4,000 vacation stimulus would begin.
Yeah, we got to figure out how to get that. Yeah, and then Photog Mike says he was a whole month. Yeah, but you aren't quite as strong as those 16 girls, Photog Mike.
What does that mean? He didn't get sick? He knows he got exposed to it, and then a month later he got sick? Or it was a month from beginning to end?
I thought he was saying he was sick for a whole month, but I don't know. Darren says, go to the corner store. We in the Kona Stowe. Angry. Is this a homage to... Oh, and look, that's your face, Patrick.
The gold face?
Yeah.
So that's the guy from Charleston, right? We in the Kona Stowe. We in the Kona Stowe. Artillery shell. I wonder what happened to him now. It's been a week or so.
I hope that they have raised the $400,000 or whatever he needed for bail, because that guy really deserves it. So this last video I've got is a video clip from Bill Burr going at Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan is refusing to wear a mask. So it's very similar to our situation where we argue with each other. But of course, Bill Burr is better with words than you.
There was people fucking right the whole fucking time. There's been fucking assholes on my street walking around, no masks, you know, not quarantining like the people that come by the houses. You see the fucking, you know, the same people that were going in and out of the house who are not part of their family still going in and out of the house.
You want people to walk down the street with a mask on?
Let's not start this, Joe.
Do you, though?
Let's not start this. Okay.
Let's start it.
I don't want to start this.
I mean, we have had this argument where it's, I'm like, I don't, like, when I'm riding my bike, I don't wear a mask. You're like, what? You don't wear a mask when you're riding your bike?
Do you want to get into this right now? Do
I
you want
wear
to do
a mask
this
when
here?
I'm hiking in the woods alone. Like, what if somebody comes upon me? What should I do? So they're doing it here.
Bullshit. I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, acting like we know what's up, better than the CDC. All I do is I watch the news once every 2 weeks. I'm like, mask or no mask? Still mask? All right, mask. That's all I give a fuck about. I don't care.
But even they say you shouldn't wear a mask unless you're treating a coronavirus patient. The World Health Organization.
Yeah, but they didn't say that initially. They didn't say it initially.
No, they didn't.
They did, and then it gradually, and then everybody wore the fucking masks. This is like rollerblading. Everybody fucking rollerbladed, and then there was that one fucking homophobic joke, and then everybody acted like they never did it. And then 100 million fucking rollerblades got thrown into the fucking ocean. We all wore masks, and then all of a sudden, people are fucking sitting there. Well, you don't have the body type for it, dude. Your fucking knuckles would scrape on the ground, even with that extra 2 inches. I just love how wearing a mask became like this fucking like soft thing that you were doing, like being courteous, being courteous. What is it for bitches? I know it's so stupid.
Wearing a mask. First of all,
oh God, you're so tough with your fucking open nose and throat. Gee, Joe, and your 5 o'clock shadow. This is a man right here. A man doesn't wear a mask. Why does it always become like that? It's always like the man versus the bitch.
That's what men do. We make fun of things. Anything that seems like you're not taking chances, right? That's what
I don't have a problem with that unless you were already wearing the mask and then you're acting like you didn't. And then all of a sudden people watch your thing and then they all pile on, oh, look at this bitch wearing the mask. It's like, you were fucking doing it 2 weeks ago.
Well, I was scared out of my mind in the beginning. In the beginning, like when everybody's shutting down in the beginning and people are stockpiling food, I was convinced. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Dude, you have like 9 elk in your basement. You were the one person I knew was fine. Tom Pop is making bread.
You get the idea.
It's weird, though, when I think about these conversations we have in America with them and with us and a lot of our followers that are watching. But are these same conversations happening in Asia? Because when I see the footage in Asia, everyone has the mask. Are they these pansy pussy, like, bitches?
Well, it's
or are they like, they know what's going on, they know the risks, it's not their first rodeo, and we, all of us Americans, look like the idiots that just moved to the coast and the first hurricane's coming, and we're like, get out the O'Brien's hurricane mix and let's party, and next thing you know, we're dead. Like, I get it. We're men, we want to be macho, and we want to act like, man, it's not a big deal. And then you want to say, like, it's just for the people that are weak and old, it's not going to affect us. But I look at other cultures, and they're all taking this seriously, and their numbers are better.
But they wear masks all the time anyway. So are you going to start wearing masks like once this passes?
No, I don't care about giving influenza to my neighbors, but
what's the difference?
Well, influenza is not likely to kill you the same. I mean, this has a couple times more deadly?
Okay.
10 times more deadly?
Well, maybe, but I mean, like, let's just say that we get 200,000 deaths by the end of the year. I mean, maybe that's not even accurate. Maybe it'd be 300,000 deaths, like if we were ramped up by January, because it didn't really start here in January. So, you know, if you could say on a bad year we're getting 50 to 80,000 deaths in America, like, it is much worse, but
there's also this collective thing, and I guess this could work against us or for us, but in no point in history, at least in the last, since my lifetime, have any of us been like, we got to wear the masks for the influenza. We all got to get behind this. It's killing people.
Right.
It's just this death rate that's there that we don't care about. But this is the first time when collectively as a society, as a world, we are all fighting and dealing with this virus.
Yeah.
That I feel like, why not just go along with it? It's not that hard to wear a mask.
Because potentially it could be the same thing that I'm talking about with lockdown, where you're not saving your life, you're just postponing getting it. So you can wear the mask all day for the next 9 months, and then you're going to accidentally talk to Alan, who took his mask off to take a sip of drink in the plane, and boom, you got it. And all that time was a waste.
I'm betting Alan was drinking those stiff drinks, and the virus it's killing it, right?
Really? Was he pouring that in his nose?
Maybe. I mean, he seemed like a crazy guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. We also you're failing to give credit to the longer this goes on, the greater the chance of a vaccine. Now, I'm pretty cynical in thinking this vaccine is not going to happen.
Like at all?
I mean, it may happen, but it's going to happen when no one cares. It's going to be like
it'll be old news.
Yeah, it'll be like a critique the community in 3 years and or 2 years, and it'll be like, well, did you hear they came out with the cure for the vaccine for the coronavirus? Yeah, we haven't heard about that for a year.
Yeah, I could see that.
Congratulations, great. Like that's what I think personally is going to happen. But if I don't take the cynical side and say there is hope for a vaccine, I mean, you have Oxford and Moderna and all these companies having third stage results coming out in the next month or two. Maybe we will have a vaccine sooner than later. And if you just held off for 6 more months, 5 more months, whatever it could be, maybe we would have something that we could now take and prevent it. Maybe it's another pharmaceutical drug. It's not a vaccine, but it's something that helps prevent the symptoms from being really bad.
Read this, the last super chat here.
Is this Frank? This is Frankie. No, this Frank Perez says, here is the $15 for Patrick to buy a, what is that, balaclava mask for his flight?
I don't know what a balaclava mask is.
Well, I'll look it up. Oh, I did look this up. This is good news. The Free Orlando, out of the $35,000 they were trying to get,
they got $110.
They raised $110.
This is from his mom. Oh man. So while you're looking that up, I need to know, like, are you guys out of this Orlando trip? Are you bailing?
I think we're not going to do it.
Okay. But here's the other.
Oh, just one of these, like a bank robber mask?
Yeah, that filters out all viruses.
Yeah, that looks like that's gonna work.
Oh,
they got a Tiger King one. You can go as John from Tiger King.
Gosh, that's awful.
It's like the face with the teeth.
So, if you fly to Charleston soon to do your 14 days,
yeah,
but Katie and I live it up, and we're doing body shots in the bars in Jacksonville, and then we come to Charleston in the house.
Yeah.
What's your point?
Well, here was my thought. We go to Charleston sooner than later. You guys are going to go to some island. Where are you talking about going to?
I think we're just going to do Orlando now. I looked into the island.
St. Thomas or something?
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking about postponing it.
Okay, well, if you guys go to the water park at the end of June, then
if you guys aren't going, then Katie and I will just go this weekend.
Well, then that would mess up the whole thing. Because if you guys went like the end of June, and then you're going to go to Charleston as we're leaving to go to Alabama, we would miss each other. I could see my parents, and then if I come back, I don't care about being with you and you have the virus after I've seen my parents. I'm just trying to be able to see my parents with being as risk-free as possible. But then we're also talking about, like, maybe we go to Asheville and do a vacation or something. Like, we got to do something. We've been in here too long.
That's what I'm trying. I don't want to wait another week or two. I want to get out of here. And the reason why I'm bringing this up live is because the day we fly out is the day that this show ends.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do it anymore if we're going to be separated and we're going to go to different states. And we don't have this ridiculous setup that we've built here.
Well, we can talk about this more off air, but like I'm leaning towards maybe getting to Charleston sooner than later, start dealing with all the lightning strike and getting everything working and getting my house back in order so that David and F-Stoppers can continue to use everything. And then maybe seeing my parents 4th of July, then maybe going somewhere. And then if we're in the States, I think we got to persuade Alaya. We got to do something while we're there.
Yeah.
And if we could knock that out in July, that would be great.
Okay.
And then maybe we'll be back in Puerto Rico in August or September. I don't really know, but oh boy, what a show!
What a
I want a
show!
McMuffin now.
Dude, don't you mock that poor woman. She's had a hard day. Well, guys, I don't know how many more episodes we have in us, but we're coming down to the wire here. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow.